I can say that I am not Red John. I think we established a few episodes back. There are 7 suspects. I think we're gonna stick with that. So my money's on choosing one of those guys as being Red John. You never know, but certainly that Red John storyline will be wrapped up this season. Yeah, and that's no secret, and we've been talking about that for a little while. I hope so. I think that was a nice little bit to end that episode, that particular episode in. Anytime that we can show a little bit of the other side of a character, it's fun for us to play because it's not our normal procedural kind of experience, for the audience. Anytime we delve into the personal life of a character, I think uh, also allows for us to show different facets. My character's been very stoic and very, straightforward about the way he goes about doing his business. And it's only in those times can we understand that, oh, okay, there are facets of him that make him human. And I hope those kinds of experiences come up. But you never know. I mean, that's up to the writers. I actually, when we first started shooting the show, I came up with a 2-page bio for the character, backstory, and that kind of thing, and I submitted that to Bruno. And he took some of that stuff and he dumped some of that stuff, and it just kind of whatever kind of worked within his already developed framework for the show, we kind of inserted. And it was nice to see that a lot of the stuff that I suggested, he kept. The character itself on paper when I first got it was very was great because it was written for, as you mentioned, for a Korean American actor to play a Korean American part. But there were still certain stereotypical sort of characteristics, let's just say, about the character that I thought we'd kind of seen that. Obviously, I mean it was a stereotype, so we'd seen that before, and so I tried to kind of do away with as many of those stereotypes as I could, and insert some of my own ideas into the character. Cho started out as a family man. I think he had 2 kids. He was a bookworm. He was very awkward in social situations. What else? That's kind of the crux of how the character was on paper when I saw it. I took out a lot of that stuff. The background, his military background, his ability to handle himself physically. I definitely wanted to keep the bookworm part of him. I thought that was a very interesting aspect to the character, where he reads these great novels when he's on a stakeout. Books that are like this thick, and that's what he does, and it just kind of lended a little bit of flavor to the character that I thought was very interesting. So that part stayed. He's single. The family man thing kind of went out the window. But it was a nice, I think, combination of a guy that can handle himself in a physical situation, in any sort of physical altercation, and then on the flip side, he is kind of that nerdy bookworm kind of guy. There were certain aspects of the socially awkwardness, and it started socially awkward, but I like to term it as he's very to the point. He doesn't have time to deal with all the little trappings of society in terms of politeness and that kind. He's not being rude per se. He's just being straightforward and just trying to get to the point and get through all that stuff. So at times it comes off as awkward or maybe even rude or those kinds of things. But that also lends an insight to the character and makes it fun and funny. I hope so, because again, as I said, it's those personal experiences, those personal situations that we find our characters in, where we can actually see different sides to the characters. So it's not just day to day cop stuff or procedural stuff. So yeah, that would be great, because I think that would be a chance to again show a different side to Cho than the one that we get to see most of the times. But that's not up to me. That's up to the writers. So, and they haven't hinted one way or the other. So I don't know. That didn't happen until later. I graduated my undergrad. I was working in finance at the time, and so as I was walking to work one morning, I was passing by an acting school, a very famous acting school, and they had a sandwich board out front that said beginning acting classes, like adult classes. And I decided, oh, why not? So I ran in there on my way to work. I signed up and started a beginning acting class for people who just wanted to try it and who never had acted before. I instantly fell in love with it, and I remember going to work one day and on the trading floor, I'm putting in orders to buy and sell stock, and I remember going through my Othello monologue in my head, and I accidentally sold 500 shares of a stock as opposed to buying 500 shares of stock. So at the end of the day, we had to reverse that whole transaction. Thankfully, everything was okay with that. But it was that point I kind of realized, you know, my head is somewhere else, and this is where I want to. This is where I want to go. I'm a big fan of 70s cinema, so De Niro's in there, and Al Pacino, Marlon Brando, those guys. They they showed something of themselves in their performances that hasn't been touched on since, in my opinion. And I always am striving to kind of reach the level of being in touch with your character as much as they were. Whenever I try to do something, it's not an easy task. My favorite character would have to be Walter White. Yeah, he and just the transformation that Brian has been able to put that character through and himself through has been a joy to watch. It's one of the best shows to come out in a long time. I think villains are more interesting. They're fun to play, and it's fun to kind of get into touch with that side of yourself. I have yet to find or to play a role like that, but I'm looking forward to it. I would have to style myself as a survivor. Yeah. Um, why am I a survivor as opposed to the zombie undead? Wow. I would be a survivor because I always I like to prepare in those ways. I'm not a doomsday prepper or anything like that, but I do like the idea of being self sufficient. And that kind of goes into that survival mode as well. You're self sufficient. You don't have to depend on anybody, and you can kind of make your way. And so that, in and of itself, I think says survivor, right? You know. Sure, sure, absolutely. I mean, I'd have to brush up on my Korean, but yeah, that'd be fantastic to do that. Yeah, my favorites are again those guys that can kind of get in touch with that side of them is like Chaemin-sik, So Gang-ho, those guys. I mean, I really love watching them work. They're kind of they always give like a tour de force performance in whatever they do. So it's fun to watch them. It'd be nice to do something with them. It was an amazing experience. I was there for a year. It gave me a chance to really, my Korean got really good because I'm using it every day. And I started dreaming in Korean. So I thought, okay, I'm really, it's starting to come back. And Korean was my first language. So, that's how we communicate up until, me and my parents, until I was like 5 or 6. And as soon as I started kindergarten, first grade, I started just, exclusively speaking English in the home. Um, but those first few years of getting that into your head, stays with you. And so that year, it got really good. There was a point, I think month 6 or 7, I got into a cab, and the cab driver asked me, "So what part of Korea were you born, or what part of Seoul were you born in?" And I was like, I wasn't born here. I was born in the States." He's like, "Wow, so I guess my accent was pretty good. The padam is good, but besides that, it was just great to day in day out be in that sort of that environment, be in Korea, be in get in touch with my roots. It was a really really fantastic experience. I like to eat anything from soups to meats to fish to sundekguk, kimchi jjigae, all that stuff. It's all delicious. So kalguksu, I haven't been in a long time, and I would say back when I would go to karaoke a bit. Gosh, what would be? Probably Back in the USSR by the Beatles. Uh, Stone Temple Pilots, a song from Stone Temple Pilots. And I'm not going to be singing any of these right now. I went back after the first season, and there was a small contingent. It was so funny. I got off the airplane at Incheon, and I guess my dad had, I forget how that exactly happened, but there were a few students, like college students, there with signs, and little presents and photos that they wanted me to autograph. So it was a really nice feeling. I remember, when she was handing me the photo for me to sign, her hand was shaking. I mean, I was kind of like, it's okay. I'm just Tim. It's fine. And she was so nervous. Depends on which part of the country I'm in. I was in Dallas, and I was laying over in Dallas for a couple hours. And apparently, people in Dallas all watch the show. So I mean, was taking pictures nonstop and all this. And then I got into Knoxville, Tennessee, and it was like tumbleweeds were going by. Nobody. So as soon as the Mentalist started kind of taking off a little bit, I and we kind of saw that the trajectory of the show and how well received that it was. I wanted to do something to kind of give back, and I started thinking what would be sort of my worst nightmare. I have a 4-year-old daughter, and I just thought what would happen in my life that would just make it unbearable, and that would be the loss of my daughter. And I asked my manager if we could kind of start looking for a charity, an organization, something that deals with kids. And we found the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children. I met up with their then CEO Ernie Allen, and we started our relationship at that point. It's been about 4 years now, I think. So, and and for our project, for our producing project, we had the filmmakers come in and write a short film script. But in order to kind of narrow it down and not get all these different kinds of scripts, we gave them a subject to write about. And I just thought kind of marrying those two themes would be great. So we had the filmmakers write about a missing or an exploited child, and then that kind of relates over into the charity that I'm working with. And we got some great entries, and Jae-ho Chang was the winner of it, and he proceeded to make a 15-minute short. Turned out fantastic. Thank you for having me again. Thank you.